few people joining in, so I'll give it just 2 more minutes for people to join, and then we can get started. Great. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining, and welcome to the webinar on making AI work in the last mile distribution sector. My name is Johan. I lead some of the innovation work at the Global Distributors Collective, and I'll be your host for today. Now, before we jump in, I just want to share two very quick house rules. Number one is to please mute yourself when you're not speaking. And the second one is we'd like to ask you to save your questions until the end of the webinar. We've got about 15 minutes allocated for Q&A towards the end. However, do feel free to put your questions directly into the chat. We'll try our best to answer most, if not all, of your questions through the chat as well. Now, for those not familiar with the GDC, let me give you a very quick intro. We can go to the next slide. So the GDC is a collective of over 300 last mile distributors, active in over 60 different countries, and we support these last mile distributors to help them reach millions of underserved customers with beneficial products. So on the one hand, we support these companies to improve their business performance, but also on a broader level, we are a voice for the sector. So we aim to develop the sector as a whole. Then moving on to the agenda for today. So today we'll show you two real cases where two last mile distributors implemented AI-driven solutions into their business practices as part of the Innovation Launchpad, the program that we run as the GDC. So I'll give a very quick intro on what the Innovation Launchpad exactly entails, and then we'll jump straight into the two cases. The first case is on AI-driven market mapping, helping you make informed solutions on where to expand your operations. And the second one is on AI-driven sales support. And we'll save the last 15 minutes for questions and answers. So then quickly, why? So I'm joined by quite a few speakers today, actually. Very happy to have in the room with me Dr. Jasper Groskurth, Managing Director of Dalberg Research, Luc Sichone, Managing Director of Solar Move Africa, David Hughes, co-founder of Dual Labs, and finally Joy Pius, Communications and Corporate Partnership Manager at Salpha AG. Then just briefly on the Innovation Launchpad. So why do we host and facilitate this platform? It's basically because we want to encourage innovation within our membership, and particularly those type of innovations that have already shown to be successful in the last mile distribution sector. So what we do is we scout for emerging innovations that have been trialed by a couple of front-running last mile distributors. We call them trailblazers, and we look for signals that they've been successful or have improved their business performances in a way. From there, we shortlist a couple of innovations that we think have the highest potential to help other last mile distributors in our membership as well. And we collect applications from members that are interested in adopting these innovations. And from there, we select a cohort of members, typically 2 to 4 GDC members, and they receive up to 6 months of technical assistance and innovation vouchers, which are basically small grants to implement the solution. Typically, we do that in very close collaboration with either a trailblazer, so a last mile distributor that has already implemented this solution, or in other cases, especially when the technology is a bit more novel, we do that with a technical service provider, which has also been the case for the cohort on artificial intelligence. And finally, we capture and disseminate all of the learnings to benefit the wider membership, and also share some of these learnings outside of the membership, which obviously this webinar is one example of. So that's just high level what we do as a GDC with the Innovation Launchpad. But without further ado, let's jump into the first case, which is on AI-driven market mapping. For this case, Dalberg Research has been the technical service provider, and they've supported SolarMove Africa to implement the solution. And I'll hand over to Jasper to introduce us to this case.
Fantastic. Thank you, Johan, and thank you everyone on the call. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Jasper. I'm the managing director of Dalberg Research. At heart, we are a 30-year-old Kenyan research agency with a full impact focus. We're a team of about 50 people, mostly in Nairobi, but also spread across Africa, and about 20% of our work also covers Asia and elsewhere. As a company, we stand with one leg on the ground, primary field work, the realities of knocking on doors and seeing living rooms, seeing farms, seeing rooftops for solar applications and others. And with the other leg, we stand in data applications, of which a big chunk is geospatial data applications that I'm going to dive into a little bit more now that were relevant in this context. Next slide, please. We have developed together, or we work together with SolarMove and with Green at Mind. Sorry, next slide, please. Yeah, there we go. We developed with them a mapping solution with, in this case, with SolarMove Africa, to identify areas where people would benefit from their product and where they have the ability to pay for that and absorb that, allowing the company to be a bit more targeted. For that, we use maps. Some of them are very mundane satellite measurements. Others are AI-driven derivatives of on-the-ground observations or combinations of variables that serve as proxies for things like purchasing power, for example. So in this case, we combine demographics, the settlement context, how people are structured. This is a hub and spoke model where you sell and service from one location to serve a larger catchment area. Go and taking into account accessibility, how hard is it to serve a market? Next slide, please. In the two case studies that we ran, the Kenya case study was on clean cooking with Green at Mind. You could see that there are, in the back of the envelope calculation will give you about 15 million households to serve. But then once you dive in, how many of those are achievable, servable with a realistic amount of effort and actually able to pay, then that number is much smaller. You can see a similar ratio on the off-grid solar solutions with SolarMove that we're going to hear about. Important is that number 3 at the bottom. These are not one size fits all. So if you're doing a clean cooking solution in Kenya, your numbers are going to be different. And if you do off-grid solar in Zambia, your numbers will also differ from these, because it depends for each product line. It depends for geographic archetypes that might require different business models in how to serve, whether through partners or do this to yourself, or direct sales or through distributors, depending on what the geographic realities are. Next slide, please. The output is at heart a map that tells you where to go, and you'll have a much bigger chance of finding great places and finding all great places, and maybe not so much wasting your time on places where people can't afford, and a detailed brief on where those are, the underlying numbers, the priority lists. From here, Luke of SolarMove will take over and tell us a little bit whether this information has been useful and how that helps them grow. Thank you very much.
Luke, are you with us? I think you're still muted in case you're speaking.
Sorry.
There you are.
Hope all of you can hear me. I'm Luke Stoner from Solar Move Africa. Maybe let me just give a short background about Solar Move Africa. So we started this company in 2019, and it was after I was fired from work. And at the same time, there was no power, there was load shedding in the country. So the two situations actually created such a huge opportunity for me to actually migrate from being an employee to being an employer. And that's how Solar Move Africa actually started. So if you look at that, we've been saving customers, mostly the smallholder farmers in the rural areas, residential customers in the cities, and some commercial customers as well in the businesses. But the problem that really we found ourselves having was that we found ourselves actually spending a lot of money to find these customers and getting very little out of it. What we didn't understand was how do we allocate the product to a location fit. But not only that, but how do you actually find a customer that has the ability to pay and is actually willing to get that product? The third thing that we didn't know was that where is the highest demand? For us, most of the times we'll just go to where is the highest population. But you'll see later that that in itself wasn't actually enough. So this was a huge problem, and we made a commitment last year to say we have to reduce our customer acquisition by 20% at least in the next 12 months. Next slide, please. Yeah. So through the Dorberg research, we actually, it helped us actually to narrow down and focus a product to a particular customer. And the project itself, through the data collection, it helps us to find where are the settlements, what type of activities, what is the financial power to pay for that product. It helped us to locate the market access. Do we have roads there? And how are the towns clustered? And the most important was, are we able to find a customer that has the ability to pay and is willing to pay for that product and the actual product fit? So this Dorberg research, the customer acquisition AI, it really helped us to narrow down and not just look at the total available market, but to narrow the product to a specific customer. Next slide, please. Yeah, so if you look at this map, I know it's very thin, but this is what I was exactly talking about, because it takes the bigger market, narrows it down to that particular customer that needs that specific product, and that, but oh no, man.
Luke, are you still with us? I think there might be a small technical issue. We'll just give Luke a minute to reconnect.
The consumer is the big because the big uses that product.
I just want to mention here from the Dalberg research side that the lack of connectivity has been a recurring issue among the suppliers. So that means also that any solutions provided need to be suitable for low bandwidth settings. Some of the more advanced AI applications do struggle there to give that light feedback. So we made it possible to use it offline as much as possible.
Let's see, Luke, are you able to hear us? You can give Luke some time to reconnect. If Luke is not able to join us, then I suggest we can move on to the second case, and then we'll save Luke's presentation for the end when the technical situation has been resolved. So maybe for the time being, let's move on to the second case, which is the AI chatbot solution. In this case, the technical service provider was Adua Labs, and they've supported Salpha Energy in developing the solution. So with that, I can hand over to David to introduce us to the case.
Thank you, Johan. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure today to discuss two of my favorite topics, AI and last mile distribution. A couple of words to introduce Adua Labs. So we are a team of engineers that have one foot in technology, obviously, but the other foot in last mile distribution. What we do is we build technology to help you scale your businesses, essentially. Personally, I've been leading the technology and credit risk function for last mile distributors before Adua Labs for a company called Baba Plus that recently rebranded it to Easily Group. And the problem I saw there, essentially, because we're in this high growth phase, is that in the beginning, you can build your operation and get a very good understanding of what's happening on the ground. The distance between you and the customers is not very that far. You can know what works, what doesn't. You can identify problems fast. But as you grow, as you try to scale, this distance becomes increasingly large. And you start having like different kind of intermediaries, different layers of management that deform the messages. So it's very hard for a company that has dozens, hundreds, thousands, sometimes of field agents on the ground to actually know what the operations are made of. So that's a problem. One of the problems we want to solve essentially with Adua Lab. That's one of our missions. We want to help companies scale and solve that problem of this distance with the field. Bring back clarity on what's happening on the ground, what works, what doesn't, and help you grow your business effectively. Next slide, please. So in practice, we work we build AI agents and other systems using AI, but and we build essentially this layer that sits between HQ and the field, and that lets you understand what happens on the field, and that lets also the field understand what's expected from the field. So we cascade, for example, your operating models, your process, your guidance, your training material, into and all the data that we can capture about the business in a structured way, and we use this AI agents to cascade the right decisions to the field. Also very important, when these decisions are cascaded to the field, we also build up the ways to extract insights and judgment from the field teams, because actually they know the customers best, they know their operations best, to also build this visibility back up to HQ. And so effectively, we're creating a loop here where we're just facilitating the flow of information in the organization. I know that's a little bit conceptual at the moment. So if you look at the right, that is essentially the form of the product that we develop. It can come in the form of mobile apps that we deploy to the field agents, mobile apps that you can use to understand what's going on the ground, from vocal notes, from text notes. It supports local African languages. For example, in some countries, we transcribe Malagasy. And we build also the surfaces for management to see where your network is dispatched, what is going on, and what you can do about it. Let me be one step more concrete and show you one example, I think, concrete example of this implementation. If you can go to the next slide, please. So this is a quick description of such a system in place. It's live in Madagascar with one of our partners. So what we're doing is we are transcribing all the calls from the call center and extracting all meaningful information from them. So if a customer says, I have a product problem, or I will pay on this day, or I'm facing network outages in my area, we can extract that insight and structure it from the calls. We bring that back with all the other data we have about customers, and this creates a comprehensive customer profile. From there, we run AI agents that are specially trained on managing credit risk issues, and we ask this agent to figure out what could be the next best action. And this credit agent, AI agent, in this sense, is not that smart, but he has access to so much data that the reasoning and the recommendation can be very, very precise. He can cross-check past payments with recent signal from call center calls or from notes written by the field. And the output of this is what would be the next action to do on this customer. Should we send someone on the ground, or should we try to call that person, or should we just leave them be and wait 1 week more so that they can fix the situation? And these next best action are then dispatched to the right people on the ground. So depending on who's where, depending on who has time and capacity to treat that. And this person on the field will receive in their mobile application a full briefing saying, oh, you need to visit that customer. Here is what you could say and investigate with that customer. And last but not least, once you have the briefing and you did the visit or the call, you can record what happened, and this fuels back into our loop. And the next day, we can reason with that additional context. So you can say, for example, it worked. The customer respected his promise to pay. And the next time you're analyzing this customer, this is treated as a signal of creditworthiness. But okay, let me now talk a little bit and frame a little bit the work with Salpha in particular. If we can move to the next slide. So with Salpha, we build a kind of a different loop. The previous one was really on autonomous credit risk operations, customer experience operations. This one is more about the customer funnel and the customer acquisition pipeline. So the problem we wanted to solve essentially is, automate what is automatable in this process, facilitate what is low-value tasks, and concentrate the attention and the value of people on what matters. And so Salpha has this problem of having many leads incoming on their social media channels, asking about a question about products, about payment terms, about where to find the product, etc. A lot of questions that created high volume and that weren't necessarily, very productive for sales rep to process. And so what we built is a first AI assistant that will respond to these customers. So essentially a chatbot that lived into these different platforms, WhatsApp, Messenger, and Instagram, and that responded to easy, simple questions that were essentially company knowledge. Once we detected someone that was actually interested in the product, there was a handover organized with the sales rep. So we would notify the sales rep, hey, this customer is interested, you can call him back. And we built a second assistant. So this is a different chatbot that we built on top of that, that was making the link between that sales rep that he could use as a kind of system, mobile system, to interact with the sales pipeline and to have a fully digitized sales pipeline. So we implemented in the back office the solution Odoo that we connected to this chatbot. And all the leads until the conversion of the sale are completely digitized with all the steps and all the traceability. So that tomorrow we also have the full traceability, the full digitization of this process, and we can understand what works, what doesn't, what's the full trail and history of every customer journey, at least the beginning. I'm going to stop there. Joy, up to you to present the more operational version of the story. I think you are still on mute. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, while Joy unmute, but
hello,
about
connectivity.
connectivity.
It's great to be here.
Okay, Joy, I'll leave you the stage.
I'm sorry, but
Hi, Joy. Can you hear us? I see you're still muted in case you're speaking. Joy, would you like to take us through the second part of the presentation?
hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Joy. Please go ahead.
Okay, my apologies. There was some minor connection issues. Okay, so hi everyone. It's great to be here. My name is Joy Pius. I'm the Communications and Corporate Partnership Manager at Salpha. And at Salpha Energy, we are an award-winning solar technology company, and we basically help install or grant energy access to millions of Nigerians. And we get this solar products, we assemble them, and we distribute across Nigeria. So that's basically who we are. So from minor solar kits to larger upgrade systems, we just kind of make sure that Nigerians are not energy deprived, basically. And our mission is to drive energy access across Africa. So right now, please next slide. Yeah, so right now we have been able to impact over 2 million people, providing clean energy to schools, to clinics, to businesses, and private homes. Then we've been able to cut across 30 states in Nigeria, and we've been able to partner with so many brands so as to get this energy across to our target audience. And one major problem that we encountered while doing that is the payment structure, the financing. So we were able to realize that majority of our customers weren't able to afford these systems and afford to get clean energy. So we had to partner with so many financing platforms and companies to be able to make sure that we get this energy across to them. And for Ajua Labs, we sought this partnership with them because we encountered a major problem while trying to, provide clean energy to people in Nigeria. Thousands of people were reaching out to us saying, oh, we want to get this energy, but there were so many messages. So we had thousands of leads come in, but we weren't able to manage these leads efficiently. We also had problems when it comes to closing the sales. So in the midst of those leads coming in, there were a lot of cold leads, basically. So there are some people that said, oh, I'm interested. Can you give me 2 weeks? I'll get back to you in 2 weeks. So we needed that prompt follow-up. And the team we had, they were kind of overloaded with work. So it was difficult trying to get them to, respond to these customers and also follow up consistently until the sale is being closed. So that's why we had to reach out to our Ajua Lab to help us, tackle that problem. Please, next slide. Okay, so we basically wanted to build a system that can handle the volume of customers we had so that our sales reps can focus basically on what matters, which is closing the sales. So handling customer inquiry. And because of the high volume of customers, there are some customers we get that they just want to make inquiries about the product. Oh, I just wanted to know how it costs. I'll keep you in view. So we had customers like that. So, and for Ajua Lab, they were able to provide us with a system and a platform that helps us connect with these customers, helps us handle their inquiries. So they provided us with a customer rep portal where, the bot interfaces with these customers, answering the questions directly. They also provided us with the sales rep portals where our sales rep would go to be able to register the sales and also login issues, more like a database where our customers' information can be stored and just where our customers' information can be stored basically. Then we were also, with this platform, Ajua Lab built, we were also able to qualify the leads, and be able to qualify those leads up to the point of sales, basically. Please, next slide. So, speaking on the initial development phase, during the first stage of testing with Ajua Lab, we encountered, just a little setback. And the setback was in form of data, so the data we provided them wasn't enough. So we had to feed the system with more data about our product, more data on the brand and other customers' information we they need. Then there was also some other key informations that also were lacking, product visuals, and also in the first testing phase, we realized that some of the responses were very lengthy, they were repetitive, they lacked like this conversational capabilities to say, oh, hi, I'm Joy, I would like this. So the conversation wasn't flowing. So we had to go back and do a little tweak in the data that we shared with them. And yeah, so they had to refine the database. They had to inject more information about our financing, our payments, more images, more videos, and a lot punchier, a lot punchier lines for conversations. And talking about problems our rep encountered. So it was very difficult trying to, get them to register some of their sales at the back end of the bot. So I initially mentioned that we had like two interfaces. The interface where the customer rep, go logs in the details of the bot and, just, feed the bot with the information, oh, this customer, I just attended to him. These are the inquiries. This is the stage where we are at. So it was very difficult trying to navigate that, but we were able to, we had to go back to Ajua Lab and they were able to make the process seamless. And yeah, so right now we've been able to follow up on all this and make sure that the system is able to successfully respond to customers' inquiry and qualify those lead up to the points of sales, basically. So moving on to the next phase and what we want the bot to do for us in the future. Please, next slide. So talking about what next for Salpha, we would like to have these bots integrated with the website. So we want the bot to be able to, to integrate with our Paystack platform where the customers can, instead of transferring. So right now the process is the bot, after response to customers, the bot just, once the customer says, oh, I'm ready to make payments, the bot just say, okay, here's a customer rep that can attend to you to close up that sales. But we want to get it to the point where the bot does the closing of the sales. So it's more like managing the processes from start to finish, like end to end. So when it gets to the point where the customer wants to make payment, the bot just automatically just say, okay, here's the Paystack link, go make payment here and just, like close the deal basically. Then another thing we are also looking at is the round robin rounds for the customer sales rep. So what happens now basically is that the customer reps we have all get a prompt that, oh, we have this customer that needs to be attended to. But the concern with that is that 2 or 3 reps or 4 reps end up attending to the same customer. So what we want is a process whereby, the rep A gets a prompt saying, oh, there's this customer waiting to be attended to, and rep A follows up. But in a case where rep A does not follow up immediately, after 5 minutes, it's now redirected to rep B to take up that customer inquiry or request and close the lead. So we would like that as well, in place where the payment system isn't able to, like we aren't able to integrate the payments Paystack into this. Then another thing we're looking at as well is for lead nurturing. So like I mentioned, we have like thousands of leads coming in. So in a case where the boss has already responded to these customers and deemed them not worthy or not sales worthy, basically. So what happens to the customer then? Can we send daily prompts, reminder, or, more like a WhatsApp broadcast saying, oh, hi, you checked on our product the other day. Are you ready to buy them now? Or are you, like the next step after a non-interested client, a bot attended to a non-interested client, can we get that follow-up? Can we get that consistent checkup message go to those customers the bot have attended to say, oh, hi, we are just checking in. Oh, it's our anniversary. We have a promo coming up. So those campaigns are what we want the bot to perform in the future. Then another thing we also want to integrate into the bot is the ability to handle partnerships. So as I mentioned in earlier conversations, we have different partners, from financial partners to distributors across Nigeria. So we also want the bot to be able to handle, these partners and probably track orders for dispatch to these people as well, because they are like large scale. So for example, the financing partners, we want to be able to get them to, get approvals for financing as well. So they don't have to necessarily reach out to us to say, oh, I need approval for customer A, I need approval for customer B, and stuff like that. So we just want people to be able to handle this. So that's our future outlook, basically. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you very much for the presentation, David and Joy. Just before we head into the Q&A, I want to check if we have Luke back in the room. Luke, am I audible? Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm back. I'm deeply sorry. I'm traveling and I'm at this lodge where power just went. So I hope this one can be my customer real soon. So, but I'm back again. So if you don't mind, I may continue.
Yeah, no worries at all. Yeah, we're a little bit behind time. So if we can, we can give you about 4 or 5 more minutes to finish the presentation, and we'll save the rest of the time for Q&A. That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so one point I just want to make on this slide. So what this slide gives us is the general total available market in Zambia for our customers, specifically, let's say, for solar pumping systems. But this is not specific. The next slide, please. Then I want to qualify something. Yeah. So now you can see that from that big solar market, we can narrow now down to specific customers and really find them to where they are. So for example, for the solar pumping system, we have like 8,000 customers. And we know these customers, we can zoom it down to their wards. So when we look for funding to distribute the solar pumping systems, we already have a customer that is ready to pay, a customer that is already waiting for the product. And that is the same for the solar cooling systems and the solar lighting systems. And this really for us was a big discovery, because we were distributing some of these pumps to other places where nobody was even interested. But we just realized that within our reachable environment, this is where the customers are. So this was really a very big revelation. We can move on to the next one. Next slide, please. So, but again, here I'm just going to run through a summary. One of the things we just discovered, which we didn't know, was that yes, it's good to have this data, but that cannot replace the field work. When we started reviewing this data, we realized that it's very, very important, even when you have the data, to still send people to go and verify if this data with the actual market, if that exists as well. And the third point I want to raise out of this is that a large population does not automatically offer a good market. This we've learned a hard lesson. And now we are able to identify the customer to say, listen, don't look for where there are a lot of people. Look at the data, send the agents there, and then in between, find the actual market. Next slide, please. Right, so I think this is where I just wanted to say one or two things on the recommendations. As I said, now through the customer acquisition, it has helped us to link a customer to a specific product with a specific ability to pay. Secondly, we have the market that is ranked. We're not dealing with one big market. We're saying, you know, with this particular location, in this particular ward, we can send the solar lights. Here we can send the solar pumping systems. And here we can send this other particular product. And that has helped us. The last few months that we've tested, realized that we've reduced the cost on our marketing and getting more sales than before. So this has helped us to really link that particular customer to that particular product. But suffice to say that we have some recommendations that we'd like to make. Some of them came as a problem that we found. For example, one of it was that we now sitting with customers that are ready to pay in some places where we have not even reached yet. So this means that this information is useless if we cannot test it with the actual product to see if the people really buy them. So what we'd like to recommend is that if possible, whenever there is a program like this, that there is maybe a deliberate funding to make sure that the data that one gets, it's actually linked with the actual product to see if that theory can be converted into a commercial value. The second thing that we'd like to recommend is that it's not enough just to rely on the data itself. It's important to actually send the actual field agents there, because you need to know how many other competitors are in that place and how are the people dispersed, and did they already have similar programs like the ones that you are having right now before you get into that program. And then the third recommendation I would like to put is definitely just to say, you know, for us, I think this program would fully end once the cycle of getting the data and the distribution of the product is done and the customers have finished paying the product. For me, that's the way that I would suggest that at that point, we can say, let's review and close this program. Next slide, please. So at Solar Move Africa, we just want to thank everybody, and all we can say is that for a small company like us, we are very much energized to use this program because we have customers that want our product. All we need to look for is where we're going to find the money to service them. And we hope in the next 12 months we'll be able to do that so that we can actually close this program in a confirmed way. Thank you so much, Iwan.
Great. Thank you very much, Luke, for wrapping up the presentation. With that, we have a few minutes left to take some questions. Maybe we can start with a question that I see from the chat from Matilde. Matilda's asking, I would be interested in knowing more about the technical solutions that were used. Was it off the shelf or was it developed in a custom way? And the data sources that were used, were all the inputs required publicly available, or did you conduct additional data collection work? I'm assuming that's for the case with Solar Move. So not sure, maybe Jasper, you want to answer this one?
Yeah, thank you, Johan. And it's a good question. So there are different types of solutions out there. We work generally with, as far as possible, with publicly available data and attribute all the sources. So if you really want to do a deep dive into geospatial analysis, into the intricacies of the data sets, into which population data set is the one that's most useful here, which road data set, you can build something that comes close to this on a shoestring on your own. The difficulty comes, or the added value of working with outsiders is we're doing this work with many different distributors. And so the intricacies of the data sets and the pointers on where you might suddenly misunderstand the size of a community or the size of a household, or where a number seems to suggest something that might not be true on the ground is real. The one thing that I do want to add that Luke mentioned, it's also very important to be aware of the limits of these kinds of analysis, that there are always things that will be relevant for your business that you will only find on the ground. So GIS solutions give you a better long list and a more efficient scouting, and then you can go very quickly through that long list to figure out, okay, where is that short list of my real sweet spots in there? And then the other thing is with open data sets and others, it means you can work with anyone also to evolve that further. Or if you grow, you can build internal systems that allow you to accommodate all of this without being locked in with a certain vendor. So maybe a combination of working with people and doing yourself is an option there. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Jalili, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the training. So I really appreciate the time and what the presenter put together for us to have this kind of a training. To us, my name is Aziz Jalil, and I'm the founder and CEO of Ajas Solar System. So this initiative is a very good one, and is going to help us at our company for now, because we are trying to scale to different market, new market area based on some of the availability that we have now. So what I want to know is that could I be a system so I think most of the question I'm expecting to ask has been answered by the last question that you raised. So, but I need to know that how
Sorry, Aziz. The moment you asked the question, I think your connection got a bit patchy. So maybe you can try repeating the question, and if it doesn't come through, maybe just write it in the chat. Aziz, can you still hear us? Okay, let us ask Aziz to write the question in the chat. He seems to be having some connectivity issues. In the meanwhile, is there anyone else that would like to ask a question?
I'd like to ask a question or a comment. Sorry, I couldn't find a way to raise my hand from.
No worries, please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Bukundi Mangena, and I'm working with Customized Energy Solutions in Zambia. We are actually currently on a program where we're doing productive use of energy roadshows. So we've gone through 31 different villages, showcasing different productive use of energy solutions that clients can use. So during this during this period, we have actually been trying to collect as much data as we can, so that we can generate leads, so that mini grids can have more consumption on them. So we're working with Ignite Energy Access. But my question was more on, is there anything being done to kind of validate the data sets, the public data sets that are available? Because I was looking at one of the data sets, I think it's DRE Atlas, where you can see like a community and it tells you how many households are there, the population, the energy needed in that particular area. So I just wanted to ask, like, are there any people doing work in that space where you kind of validate that data? And also in our work where we go and look for leads, we collect data about families and people that would like productive use of energy equipment. So do you know if there are any people that are doing validation of those data sets? And if they do validation of data sets, is it possible that if you, let's say in a province, if you cluster 10 different communities, or you take a simple data set, you get people in the ground, they go and collect the real data on the ground. Is it possible to also then build machine learning models or AI models that could then kind of validate the data sets that are already available? Sorry, I made this question very long, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to get here.
Yeah, thank you, Mukundi. I'll jump in there. So the first thing is knowing which data set to use. So for example, for population, there are about 10 different sources that show settlements. Some are better to understand household distributions, others are better to understand population distributions, others are very recent but more coarse. So for example, in conflict areas, you want very up-to-date data. It doesn't have to be super accurate. You just need to figure out whether millions of people moved or hundreds of thousands of people moved. So understanding which data set does which is part of the trade and part of the understanding. Then you have to distinguish between data that is directly derived from satellite data. So there is something that is being measured for every square meter on the continent, and it is then processed in a way, and it gives you something. That algorithm does make mistakes, but then there are models that run behind that. And then there is data that is that's typically, for example, settlement and houses. You combine that then with census data, typical family sizes and things like that to come to population amounts, and you then align that with population counts in the census data sets. Now, if the census data sets are terrible, these corrections become impossible. So it depends on which country you're talking about. Countries like DRC, for example, are a challenge. Now we have new data coming out of DRC that we're very excited about, but it's not yet fully available. A country like Kenya or South Africa is much easier. There is an element. We're currently working with a partner in more than 10 countries, similar industry, developing GIS pipelines that we have done here. And the immediate follow-up is, as soon as we have closed the GIS pipeline, we go with the client together in teams out to verify the sites. So they say, well, we're going to roll out initially with 100 sites. So can you give us 120, 130 sites? We visit them together, and we then apply a survey there to identify, okay, which of these 130 sites are we excited about? And the first 30 kiosks will be put into the 30 top sites among those. And then you gain some time to learn more as you're on the ground about how to read your data sets further, other insights, and then what we call organic sites that are off the GIS pipeline because they have some interesting variables. It might be that a certain type of markets is particularly interesting for you, or a certain kind of infrastructure, and then you can ask the models again. So there has to be this iteration between the data. The data will never give you the full answer, even if you knew the exact population count by on a grid of 10 by 10 meters. It would not fully answer your question until you get to the ground and say, oh, but here people are very hostile, or but here people have this kind of industry that is suitable for my product, or there's so many nuances. that this iteration, go to field, learn something, come back, implement something, come back. The GIS is an accelerator and a help to focus. And that going back to the field is a quality control. So we continuously update our maps. For example, for many people, schools are important for clean cooking solutions and solar. School maps are notoriously unreliable. And every time we do a survey of schools, we refine that map again. And in some countries, we have probably better maps than the government on these schools or on health facilities. But it's a very iterative process. There is nobody who structurally goes to every square kilometer on the continent to see, like, okay, school, hospital, petrol station, and 57 households. So unfortunately, there you have that gray area there. I hope I answered your question.
No, you definitely did. That was quite helpful. I think it's something that we might have to maybe talk about a little bit later on. But thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think separately, there's a couple of interesting conversations in the chat as well. I see Martin Kausil offers assistance to their satellite-based Earth observation tech, which counts rooftops. So Martin will share contact details in the email after the session as well. So feel free to get in touch. And of course, there was still the outstanding question from Aziz. Aziz, I'm not sure if you're still here, but we'll make sure to follow up on your question separately as well. Then I see we have 2 minutes left, or 1 minute left on the clock, so it's time to wrap up the session. Eugenia, maybe you can just pull up the last slide. In a moment, you'll see a very short poll asking you about some feedback on how you've experienced the overall webinar. Please fill it in before you drop off. We'll also share the slides and the recording with you after the session. And if you do have any more questions that you weren't able to answer during the webinar, or any new questions pop up, then feel free to reach out to us. Happy to forward any question to the speaker. And I think that's all. So thank you all very much for joining. Please take a minute to fill in the survey, and you'll hear from us again over email with the recording and the slides of the session. Yeah, and then I wish you a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody, and thanks GDC for inviting us.